We are supremely black. We are Flake, Rose, and Spears, dropping content that matters. How y'all doing this week, fellas?
Man, this is Big Kinfo J.Flake, man, doing all right this week. I made a couple posts when I voted this week, which was a good time. Made it whole family affair like I've been talking about. Got my 18-year-old early in the morning. We went out there and got in line at probably about 7:15. Doors open at 8. So what I posted on my Instagram was actually before the doors even open. And really, I didn't even do it any justice because I didn't get the people behind me. But it was good to see mainly, well, in my area where I voted, it's gonna be mainly black people voting there. And when we came out in droves, dog. When I mean, I was standing out there, it probably was about 200 people ready before, including people that was behind me. And by the time I got in and voted and walked out, the line was D.Rose. You probably know this is over there by that new library where the Predators practice at.
Yeah.
The line went all the way down the side of the library, all the way up towards the side where the Predators do their practice at, around the walking trail, all the way back to the bus stop when I came back out. So it had to been probably about 400 some people out there voting, doing an early vote on a Saturday morning, man. So that made my heart smile some, man. And well, we had a good time. We cut up in line and, just made it a good time while everybody was voting. My oldest daughter, she took it more serious than what I thought she would. So that's good to hear. I asked about who she voted for. She can name me all the people she voted for until it got down to a couple others. She was like, I didn't even know this office existed or this and another one. You need to do the research and look that up. And so you know what they do and, the reason why you voted for this person or whatnot. So, but it was a good week. Good and bad week, but I won't discuss the bad week. So we gonna move on.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. I've been hearing a lot of good things in regards to people getting out and voting. That's good. I haven't ran into anybody saying they've ran into any issues at the polls. I know across a couple of states, there's been reports that people have been out kind of trying to bully people at the polls. So I'm glad nobody has experienced that. I haven't made it out myself. I'm still doing some additional research. However, it's definitely a challenge just kind of looking at who you will side with, what's going to benefit you within the next 2 to 4 years, and how it could actually impact even longer, just depending on certain things. But I'm glad that went well. But my week been straight, man. It's really just prepping for the half. We finally made it. So Saturday we'll be getting our half marathon completed. Chris will be coming down from Dallas and getting that out the way and enjoying some fun. I actually have some family members coming in from Iowa. My uncle and his aunt is coming down to support during the race, and we'll probably get together, link up a little bit, get a little brunch or something Sunday and chill. Overall, it's been great. Can't think of anything bad. Last night ended pretty well, just watching some good football on TV. So, been a great week, man. Can't complain.
My week's been well as well. Ain't really much happened, like you said. Been preparing for the half, also working and stuff. So, week's been good. Little bumps and bruises here and there with different things, but ain't nothing that's gonna stop me. Again, as I'll say, and I'll continue saying ever since I've been doing it, journaling has been a blessing. So that's a great thing. It's another form of therapy, what I've learned, and it's therapeutic in a sense. So I'll say that. But other than that, my week's been good. Ain't too much been happening. I'm alive. I'm blessed to see another day. Hopefully, God say the same. And creek rise in the morning and the sunshine, and I can see tomorrow. But other than that, everything's been good. So for our listeners, just to jump straight into the topic, we told y'all last week that we was going to discuss 1619 Project again and pick one particular excerpt or essay or poem or whatever from the 1619 Project. And this week we decided to do sugar plantations, or if I want to give it a name, the impact of sugar in America, or the black exploitation of the sugar plantations in America. And so that's what we're going to discuss this week. Talking about the 1619 Project, I will say that for myself, reading and listening to the podcast, reading the essay and listening to the podcast, it was eye-opening and educational to some of the things that have happened or transpired. And then it's still crazy to see different forms of redlining, because you hear about redlining with trying to apply for a loan in certain aspects, but when you think about redlining from a standpoint of land that you've cultivated all your whole life, or your ancestors cultivated, or your father and his father and his father before them cultivated, and either took part in building that agriculture up and producing things from that land, but also owning it and buying it back when they were free man and they could get a couple acres here or there. They could buy a certain piece of the part of the land, even if it wasn't a full acre, and then to know that it could just be stripped from you, or that you can't get the funds from a bank that you've been dealing with for decades. You can't get the funds to keep your land because of loopholes, taxes, people trying to up the value of property around you because they have money and you don't, or whatever the case may be, or just, the good boy system, uh, a couple of people of a certain race or ethnicity coming together and trying to push you out by their money, by their tactics, by their privilege. And so some of the things was just eye opening to me, and I'll dive deeper into it after I hear y'all speak and hear what really touched y'all or whatnot. And then also to see, because I know I put the podcast in late, but the podcast did share something different from the essay. And I know most of us just dove into the essay, but I'll add that in once I hear from y'all. So whoever wants to tap in first, y'all be more than welcome.
Yeah, it's crazy because the part I didn't know is how the sugar went from the northern states all the way down to the bottom of Louisiana. People like to leave out New York when it comes to slavery, when it comes to discrimination, when it comes to racism. We like to leave out those northern states. But it was surprising to me, which I didn't know, on how big New York played their hand into the sugar factor, into the sugar production between with slaves. So that area had been the ones that come up with three slaves can't gather together because they were scared or nervous they was gonna come up with some plan. That all happened from in the northern states. But it also shocked me that it got to the point in Louisiana where they were saying that more people was dying, slaves was dying quicker than babies were being born from how the slaves were treated during the process of manufacturing sugarcane. And the reason it being that sugarcane was looked as a luxury to the Europeans, and they said it was so hard to harvest and that you had to, get the extract the juice out because within 24 to 48 hours, the sugar wouldn't be any good. So they couldn't work the fields. So they decided to bring sugarcane over and have slaves to work it. And it was just a strenuous job on the slaves that they basically were saying within 7 years, people was dying from farming sugarcane. So I know we talk about cotton so much, and every time you see somebody, with cotton, and I saw one picture of a black girl in a cotton field. If you drive back to my hometown, you go through the country, you see all type of cotton fields, but you don't realize how big sugarcane played, and when it comes to slavery, like it was a huge manufacturing. That's where you get Brazil and Jamaica come into play and all that. So if you ever wonder why, those countries or those parts of the United States came into play, like Jamaica, Brazil, and all those places, those islands, is because they can produce sugar cane. And it's crazy because they said at one point in Louisiana, it was more black people in Louisiana than it was white people. And that just lets you know how torturous slavery was. That at one point, it was more black people in the state of Louisiana than it was white people. And see the fact today, there's still a lot of black people there. However, it's definitely not more black people in Louisiana than it is white people at this point in time. But I got over, I didn't know that the sugar cane industry was that brutal when it came to slavery.
Yeah, and those are the same points. Like I agree with both of y'all, is because I was just looking at it, and New York is definitely glossed over. I think the North in general is when it comes to like the slave trade and the actual impact that they had in making sure that it ran as a business that it ended up being and funding a lot of the different things within America. I did not realize that as kind of doing some research on it is that the current president right now is pushing back and defunding schools if they are supporting or even speaking about the 1916 project because they feel as if that their founding fathers are being heralded as like torturous people, but majority of them or all of them pretty much own slaves in some way. So when they considered it as white gold, I just thought it was like very key. Because again, to Flake's point, you didn't realize of how important it was because they pushed cotton, but sugarcane was, it was crazy. And just to realize that something so really just bad for our bodies, a lot of us still to this day are dying over diabetes and a lot of it because of our sugar consumption. And, and it's not even to, realize and just taking it back in history is that's the same thing that's killing us now, and we're choosing to buy it. We had people being forced and laborers and from prisoners that were forced to work these sugarcane fields, and from kids to the elders dying based off of having to produce it. And like 24 to 48 hours they had to be producing. And if people, that I've read that there was times where people had went on strike and didn't want to do it, or they didn't agree with the salary that they were getting paid, and they were killed or humiliated. So it was very shocking to realize that something that was considered as labor and they were getting slightly paid for was actually worse than the slave field. And that's on several reports, no matter how they try to look at it, that it was a lot of deaths based off of them not producing as fast as they should, like a labor line, and not getting paid for it. And they couldn't buy plots. It was every now and then they were able to buy plots of some of the land that they were taking care of, but like you were saying, to the redlining point, they weren't really given those options because if you think about all the acres that they've covered and from generation to generation, we should be owning way more than what we have now, just based off of how we had to, work it. So I know we're going to dive into a few of those other topics, but that was my take on it.
Yeah, folks out there getting paid $1.40 a day. They go on strike and they come kill you late on at night because you want to strike about it.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. One of the things that I learned about that I didn't know about was the German Coast Uprising in 1811. That's something, one of the largest, revolts and uprising by Black people in America history that isn't, and it details this in the essay that it's not told in our history books, that the only way that it is told or that you do hear about it is from word of mouth by being passed down by elders and older family or, people, OGs or whatnot, and, just sharing information and spreading the wealth or the news and the knowledge with you. So that's one thing that I am grateful for, the 1619 project by shedding that light on it, but I'm also, saddened by the lack of our story being told or being able to be out there because it is stripped from history, is stripped from our connection to who we are as a people. And before I even go into like just technicalities in the essay or whatnot, I do want to say to our listeners and to ourselves, or something that we probably need to share with, our children or our nieces and nephews, agriculture is a booming business. And that's something that we need to get back into, because diving into the 1619 project period, but even diving into this particular subject, you realize what we contributed to America, but also how without us, they couldn't do it. And if we get back to our roots, how one, we can make the money and have the financial freedom that we want, we can have the economic value that we want, and we can attain it and sustain it. But two, how that it's not a job for the lighthearted, but with our ingenuity, with our creativity, with our culture, with our wit, with our brilliance and everything, and with the technology advances that we have today that we didn't have there, we could really take over and also get back to knowing who we are as a people once we were stolen from the land that we came from, Africa. Even though we might not know exactly where we came from in Africa, we all know we came from Africa, but we could get back to who we are as a people, and we could share that value and that appreciation for what our ancestors and great grands went through or whatnot. So that was something that just, stood out to me, and that made me feel honored and privileged to not only just be Black, but to also know that without us, America wouldn't be shit. And if we really dug back into our greatness and we knew who we were, versus worrying about the others knowing who we are and we don't know who we are ourselves, we could do some great and powerful things. So that was just one thing that touched me, just not even from, just the excerpt part, but that just hit me and uh, touched me.
And yeah, and I definitely agree, because when you think about how they gloss over slavery, for one, of how they're, like my little sister was telling me about her history books, and they're pretty much as viewed as, and I've covered this a little bit before, it's like waitresses. It was definitely not that. And my thing is that not that everything from the 1619 project could be 100% fact. Of course, we're going to continue to do our research and not just say that it's 100% fact, but it does cover a lot of very key points of how the economy was built up in America. And my question to people that always want to say, okay, well, one, we can't do anything about that happened in the past. True enough. Do we ever get out of the mindset of not knowing that we're currently not slaves? That is a challenge as well. But also, thirdly, is if this wasn't the history, then could somebody please tell us what the history was? So why was cotton so important? Why was sugar so important? So for the people that don't want to agree or don't want to say that this wasn't the history, what else do we have? Because every time that we continue to do research, this is what we're starting to find, is that our founding fathers, our elders, of some form of it, whether it was a low-paying job or were slaves, and built this economy that you all say that never existed. So you want to just say it never happened, but we all know that there's cotton fields and we all know that there was sugar cane. So address the facts, and then we could come to a middle ground and say, okay, hey, maybe this was put on to where it was made out to be more gruesome than it was. But just to say that it didn't happen, but people have come from different countries and different backgrounds that have had slave stories or laboring jobs where their ancestors have lost their lives and they've been completely stripped of their identity. You cannot continue to say that, okay, well, that was then, or hey, this never happened, because where are the stories coming from? People haven't made up these great lies that connect to from century to century, from country to country, and you talk to different people from different places. Yes, slavery was a real thing. And yes, we know about the Anthony Johnsons that may have had Black slaves, and he was a Black person that owned slaves and maybe treated them worse than he treated his white people that he had stand with them as well. However, I think it was more people from the opposing side of Anthony Johnson that wasn't Black that owned people and built an economic structure off of the back of slaves or cheap labor or prisoners, regardless of how you look at it. So let just keep addressing the facts and quit trying to say of what didn't happen if you can't tell us of what did occur.
Well, they want to keep it light because they don't want you to realize that the first 5, 6, 7, 8 presidents owned slaves. They don't want to be looked at as being evil people. They want them to be up in. They want to have their pictures, and if it wasn't for this great person, this country wouldn't be what it is today. However, those people were slaves. I mean, George Washington wore teeth of slaves. They try to say, "Oh, those was wood teeth." No, he wore teeth of dead slaves. I mean, that's just what it is. And people want to hold them up on a pedestal. No, we're not holding these people on a pedestal. These people was hateful, evil people. At the end of the day, that's what it was. And they want to say, like you said, we forget about slavery. We get past that. Well, it's hard to do that when you still got rebel flags going up. When you still got statues of Storm Thurman still up. When you got all these statues of these people that was enslaving people that wanted sugar cane and cotton to stay in play to keep people enslaved and pecans. Yeah, yeah. How can you forget? How can you got schools named after slave owners? How can you ever forget? And if we don't go through this and do the research, how do we know you gotta know your past to know where you're going in the future? I mean, I wish I could be like some of these people and look up my past, my relatives all the way back. But you know what? Mine stopped somewhere. Mine stopped somewhere because of slavery. I doubt that Flake is my real last name. My real last name is out there somewhere, but it gets to a period and it stops. Um, and they started to say that slavery had quadrupled within a 20-year span of dealing with sugarcane. I know Spears has said some kind of mention that we all came from Africa. I have to disagree with you a little bit, my friend. I believe that Black people have already been here. It's kind of hard to say that you have that many slaves and you have thousands of slaves that died on the way here, but then somehow the slave numbers keep going up. No, they enslaved people that they found that were already here before they ever hit this continent. And they enslaved those people. Some of those are Native Americans that was enslaved. Well, we are Native Americans also because, like I said, we was here also. If you look, it's a straight boat from Africa straight here. It's a current that'll take you from Africa straight over here to the island. That's why Brazilians look the way they look. That's why Cubans look the way they look. That's how we ended up in Haiti and stuff like that. We was already conquering these areas before they got here. They just got here with weapons and disease that pretty much helped people enslave. I know people think that, well, why the slaves just didn't beat up the slave owners? But we didn't have guns. We didn't have guns. We didn't really have weapons like that. Why? Because it was peaceful. You did on trade and barter during that time. You could trade with people. If I didn't say violence didn't happen, but when it did happen, you either had your two fists or you had a knife or you had bow and arrow. You had something like that. Now, when they came over this mention of the gun, they always say you can't bring a knife to a gunfight, and the gun gonna win every time when they pull that trigger and you see somebody go down. But going back to this, and then I'll let Spears give his part on this. Another thing that surprised me is Angola. The prison in Angola, the prisoners there are still manufacturing sugar. And I read in his report that they said Angola is not there for a coincidence. Angola was built on plantation land that grew and produced sugar. So when you become a prisoner of the state of Louisiana and you go to Angola, you will be producing sugar just like slaves did. And that's pretty fucking sad.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't changed as you continue to do research. I mean, it's eye opening. It's tear jerking at points when either you're watching a video on it, you're reading on it. It should definitely catch your attention if you care about our history, because the only way we can find out is if we continue to research, because clearly they're not going to provide it for us. But to realize, like, with the mass incarceration once they had abolished slavery, and how many Black men and or Black people in general, but really focus on Black men, were starting to get locked up on just for whatever reason, just so they could be, because if you are a prisoner, you are still considered a slave. So you're going to be working low end, you're not going to be making any money, you're still going to be doing and practicing the same things that you were doing in the slavery time. So when that mass incarceration hit, and they're taking the fathers from the families and the boys from the families, and now they're all on basically a plantation field for charges that, I mean, what could they have done? They didn't have anything at that particular point. So the game hasn't changed. They just switched it up. It's considered prison now, and for the most part, unless you're in the feds, you in a plantation. You're on a plantation field.
And Flake, I totally agree with what you said. What I meant by we all come from Africa is that the first man and woman was produced and born in Africa, so we're all of African descent, and we are the true nomads, and so therefore we traveled and experienced throughout the land or whatnot. So that's what I meant by that. But I agree with your standpoint on, we were here, and we were in Brazil and Mexico and other parts of the world. And so therefore I totally agree with you on that. The thing that is different, or to touch on the Angola part first before I go to this, was it's crazy that I found out that that's the largest prison in America. And so to know that, it's on a plantation, they're still producing sugar, and that's the largest prison in America, I wonder why. Because they still need that free labor to produce part of the sugar that is a $3 billion business for America. And so that's one thing that is, and to your point, Rose, that is just crazy, but they got to do it. Ain't shit changed. Ain't nothing changed. It's the same old, same old. One thing that the podcast did touch on that it didn't touch on in the essay was that the government paid out the biggest settlement for discrimination to Black people, Black farmers in that region, in the area in Louisiana, and there might have been some in some other parts in that region for discrimination. And it's the biggest settlement that they paid out. And I think they said, don't quote me, but I believe they said $1 billion. So that's the biggest settlement in America that's been paid out for discrimination. And again, it was paid over to, I want to say again, I hope I'm getting the numbers right, to about 1,600 people. So they only really roughly got about $50,000, and that's what they spoke about, and then their debt was wiped clean, but they only got about $50,000, but they lost their land still. They still didn't have, the land or their homes or their houses to still sharecrop and to still farm on or whatnot, but they got paid a $50,000 settlement. And of course that doesn't take away what they lost or the pain that they went through, but to know that America, the government, paid the biggest discrimination settlement to the sharecroppers and to the farmers who was basically robbed of their heritage, robbed of their land, robbed of their homes, robbed of their moneymaker, is just crazy to know that as well. And then one other thing that I do want to touch on from the article is the fact that we have, and again, I don't know if you were in the group, Rose, were you in a group when I was planning the trip to the Whitney Plantation?
Yeah, I was in the group. Yep.
Okay, so we have a museum basically that was in Louisiana, and they farmed they cultivated sugar. So the Whitney Plantation is a museum, but it's an actual plantation that was cultivating sugar back in the day. And we have historical, I don't know if you could call something that was a plantation a landmark, but we have historical access to things that can educate us, teach us, and let us know what our ancestors went through. And a lot of people don't know nothing about it, or a lot of people are lost, or wouldn't even if you know about it, wouldn't even access that knowledge or that once in a lifetime chance to go there and to visit that. And I know some people could say it might be too rough or too harsh for them, and I can empathize with that. but again, to touch some grounds and to see some things and to educate yourselves on something that is still to this day something that we deal with or that we're steadily trying to deal with. Because again, to this day now, 2020, we have farmers and sharecroppers in Louisiana who are being robbed of their land, robbed of their homes. They're told that they can't farm, and that's the reason why we're trying to take their land from them and taking their subsidies and not allowing them to get loans because they're horrible farmers. But that's all they did all their life. That's all their parents did all their life. That's all their parents did all their life. That's all the slaves did all their life. The white people didn't farm them lands. That's all we did all our lives. But now we're horrible farmers, and the people who never broke a sweat over that land is just so exceptional at farming. And so I would just suggest us to tap into where we come from, to tap into the different landmarks and the different access and avenues that we have to gain knowledge and wisdom. And again, Whitney Plantation was something that I was planning to do with one of my groups that I was in, and I was trying to get that together. But little Covioid and little Coco came in and ruined things. But that's still something that I plan on doing with the people that I'm among and that I encounter, because I think that's something that would be dope and it would just be an historical thing for us today as Black people. But yeah, that was just something else that I want to tap into.
Yeah, and before we get on to the our other topic, and with Angola, it's like in 2010 is 51,000, now 5,100 inmates, and the population at that time when they did, I guess, the last census there was 76% Black, 24% white. So again, I know everybody does crime, but you can't tell me that 80% is going to be going to that particular plantation. And I mean, the number speaks for itself. We know what's going on with that. And they got the 3-strike rule in Louisiana too, right?
I'm not sure
Not
about that.
100% sure. Yeah, I have to look that one up.
Yeah, I really think they do. I really think they do.
But yeah, there's like going back to New York, not being off the hook here, that they had sugar factories on Wall Street. That's how important the sugar business was to them up north. That they had those on Wall Street, and it was overlooking the rivers. So you know what was going in and out is exports and imports. And I think they were saying from Louisiana up to New York, and in Louisiana that one out of every two boats was either bringing in slaves or bringing in sugar, producing sugar to be going in and out to go to different places. Um, and like Spears was just stating that, you know, they was using when we did try to go back and own the land, or when we did try to go back and produce our own companies and be our own businessmen and boss when it came to sugar plantations, well, you can't farm the land. Either we got the land and it was end up taken from us for some stupid reason, or they just wouldn't buy. I seen situations I was reading too where that sugar wouldn't purchase it at all. Did I go out?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you was going out a little bit. You were saying that there were certain times where sugar, the land could be purchased at odds where you cut out it.
Yeah, they just wouldn't let you purchase the land at all. And then if you did and you farmed that land, they just wouldn't. They would just ostracize you and just wouldn't buy from you. I think we had 90% sugar farmers at one point in time, and they kept on reducing down because nobody wants to do it anymore. You know, it's like if I can't make any money off of it because they're gonna either steal my land or attempt to kill me because my family's making money. I'm from I'm so
You breaking up again, my brother.
hard over.
Yeah. Yeah, to Flake's point is we were at 90 where we were farming we were at 90% of where we were farming the land, and that families and farmers were becoming discouraged just based off of not either being supported, or they could actually be killed based off of the actual issue. So, what was your next point, Spears, that you want to touch on? Is to Flake join back?
Uh, as far as that, I really don't have another point to touch on, but I do want to discuss or ask basically what can be done, or what do you think we need to do more of in order to eliminate being robbed of our rights, and also being bullied from things being stolen from us, as far as, again, as far as the farmers that are still in Louisiana trying to farm and trying to continue to live a life that's going to help them and their families, and to benefit us as well. Because one thing I did learn in this too, that we, America as a country, intakes more sugar than damn near most of the world. And so when you think about that, it's like it's not going nowhere, but they're taking us out of the picture in order to make a living up from it. But then it's not just about the living, it's also about, that's people's land and that's all they had. That ties them to their family. That's what they know. That's their land. That's where their homes are at. That's where they grew up. And once you rob somebody of that, where do they go? What do you expect them to do? Because to be honest, and like you said, to your point earlier, nothing's changed. But I can see why, if you take my land, I might end up in Angola, because what else am I to do now but to possibly commit a crime? If I have nowhere to call home, if I have no land no more, if I don't have a way to make money, and that's all I knew, I didn't know nothing else. So it's not like I could just go apply for a IT position, or I can go, work as a call center, you know, tech or representative or anything like that. All I knew was how to put these hands to use. So I'm, what can we do?
I would say that for me and just others that I've talked to, just about us overall, honestly, I feel that unity is just the key thing. Is that what I've kind of realized while doing all the research for the 1916 and just overall just history of how we've been impacted economically. We have to be able to mobilize our own things without being dependent on a system that's not really for us. And so by that means that I would not tell people not to support a farmer or anyone that has a business, but we just need to support our own. One of the key things about, and where it's kind of like contradicting with sugar, we really, as Black people, don't even need to be consuming sugar, but that would also be cutting off potentially millions and billions for Black farmers that still have the ability and know how to farm sugar cane. But you just have to beat them at their own system. Is that if we've realized that what they do is they don't just say what they're not going to do. They really show you financially, we're not going to support you. We're going to cut your water off, like we say. And so we have to be able to do the same thing, is that you can't be solely dependent on a system if not. So it's like, it's very simple. Like how if we go out and we frequent a couple of places, we definitely try to make sure that it's our own people that we're supporting, even if we're getting out, because we don't do it often, but we need to make sure we support our own. That's the only thing that they're showing us. Like, but are we going to do it consistently? We have to. Like, you get what I'm saying? It's like, that's the only unity and separation from the system. That's the only way you can actually build something that's stable, because depending on it, they can just cut your water off. Like, you can't farm. We're going to push you off your land. A couple of your homies that say they really going to ride, going to buy out when they come through with a couple $100,000. So it's just more or less of sticking to your guns and saying what you're gonna do, and support it and move forward with it. But you have to have, as we've discussed, you have to have multiple ways to bring in income, and it's just what it comes down to. And when you say you're not boycotting, it ain't no council for 30 days, 90 days, 60 days. That has to really be a lifestyle in order for us to stabilize how we want to get back to the Tulsa days of Black Wall Street. If not, we're going to continue to support the original Wall Street of how they trying to do things, and we're just caught up in the spider web, honestly. So I think unity and just proper preparation to prevent from us being so dependent on people or a system that's not for us.
And to answer your question, Louisiana does have the 3-strike law, and 30 of the 50 states have the 3-strike law.
Yeah. I knew.
Which needs to be canceled.
I knew. I kind of figured it was Louisiana too, because that's why people be getting up out of there.
Yeah, that 3-strike law need to go away. But going back to what you're saying, D.Rose, and us supporting each other. I think it's a situation where we need to have our own little, I don't know, Africa town. Like, you go to certain places, they got little Mexico, they got little Chinatown, they got all that. We need to start coming up with ways we come up with our own little Africa town, or whatever you name it, where it's just a list, a corner, or a block of Black-owned businesses that you can go to and you could purchase and support. Nowadays, it's easy for us because we can look it up and see what is actually a Black business surrounding areas. However, it's kind of hard to find. It might be just one. It might be 30 minutes away. You might want to go and get a sandwich at this spot, but that might be 20 minutes away from this spot. Or you want to do some dry cleaning. Now that spot, 15 minutes from this spot. If we can go to one centralized area and get all our business done in that one centralized area. That would definitely help out a lot as far as helping us grow and producing other businesses and helping other businesses out to grow and maybe franchise and come larger and larger and have their own. There's no reason why a Black person shouldn't have their own. Just use McDonald's as an example. They own McDonald's, but it's called something else as a Black-owned burger establishment. Or we have clothing brands, but they come in and go out. They go in and come out for whatever reason that is. They hot for 6-7 years, and next thing you know, they go away. But we gotta have, we should have our own Walmart. We should have our own farming company co-op companies that we can go to and produce. And this is an example of this part of the project is an example of why we was requesting and fighting for our 40 acres and a mule. Some people like, well, that ain't much. Well, back then, we used the one producing cotton, producing sugar, producing pecans. But when you was the one that was doing that labor, yeah, you would want your 40 acres and a mule because it was an instant business for you right then and there. Because you were the farmers, you were the ones producing all this. You were the in and outs of how this gets brought in, breaking down the sugar cane, growing the sugar cane in the soil to it growing, to you breaking it down, processing it, getting it juiced out to the finished product of being crystalled or liquidized for it to be sold. You were the beginning and the end of that process. So for them, it's like, you give me that, I can become a millionaire in a couple of years. No amount of time, and make more money than any white person or slave owner that had me. And that's why, as we talk about, they was redlined, and we're not giving you your land, or we're gonna make up some reason for to take your land from you. Or as Spears was just speaking about putting them in jail. Think about it back then, that what we think is crime now was technically not crime then. You could be out past a certain time in a certain neighborhood, and they would make up some reason for you to go to jail. Or you could be going to drinking out a white only water fountain and go to jail for that. Just stupid stuff. And Bill Burr had a joke. He had a joke on Saturday Night Live not too long ago, talking about white women occasionally messing with Black men, and we got caught up saying it was non-consensual. So there's plenty of cats that went to jail for situations like that. So it's crazy how it was done. We do need, as a group of people that that was behind, as you guys talk about running a marathon. There was a group of people that got, 5 miles ahead on us when it came to the marathon, and we still trying to catch up. And they running at a good pace. And basically what they did was in that marathon was tire you out. While they was 5 miles ahead, you were standing in heat that was 105 degrees and they had fans on their face while they jogged. So I think as a group, we eventually gonna get there. I think that's kind of why the person off's trying, not get these stories told. It's funny how they'll fight for defunding the police, but won't fight for defunding the school, which is crazy to me. But this type of place we live in, and I think they know the heat is on them as you starting to get more black billionaires and millionaires, and we starting to be more involved in tech and more business savvy and learning the tricks of the trade and all that now. Because the internet, like I always say, internet is a blessing and a curse, but it's come a blessing to us because now we can research and study and figure out, where people would share information before when you asked about it. People wouldn't share certain information. But now you can look it up, but with that computer in your hand, and get an idea of how to start your business, or what you need to do, and all type of licenses you need, and what you need to be done by the state. And they've started to feel that heat. Might not happen in my lifetime where we start to see a major takeover, but it's coming.
I think we will see. I know we will see it. Honestly, is because these conversations are important. More people have platforms. More people. We are becoming more accessible to financial gain that, like you said, was hidden from us previously. Mentally, especially the people that I'm around and blessed to be around, let me say that part, we're not mentally enslaved anymore. We're definitely looking at how do we continue to break the chains to create our own, whether it's a community or a group of people that we know for a fact we can move in unison, whether that's purchasing a franchise, purchasing some land, having, little group sessions to where we're actually talking through some of our major issues and, linking up with people that aren't within our same age range, that have better pool, that can connect us with other people that have fought this fight and realize that they have to pass the torch to the younger generation. And if we continue along this path, we could pass that torch a lot quicker. So it's not that standstill of like, let me see what these older cats are talking about with these younger cats, and we're all moving in unison. And that torch gets to us a lot early in life. You realize your purpose and how important you are to your community and your family. Is that, okay, now I understand I'm not running around here lost and worried about what's the hottest rap song and the latest J's. I know for a fact that my uncle's telling me about some stuff that he went through in his life. We don't want to experience that. So yeah, we can go out and party, turn up, do whatever we do, but we have to handle business first to make sure we're not so solely dependent on the system, because it didn't work for them. So we can't expect for it to work for us. And we feel the same way. And we can talk to our other, I'm like, that's just how it is. We don't really, this generation wasn't built on, that's just how it is. We're going to challenge it even if it's right, but we just need to know what some specifics are. So I feel that we will see it. It's going to come easy? No, but I think it's going to get done. Like, it's going to be some Nat Turners out here that's willing to, put it all on the line to make sure that their communities are better and no longer supporting anyone of any ethnicity that is just trying to tear down the hood and put on like you all about it, but you're still doing things that are not helping us at all. So if you're not really trying to help us progress and you're just being more detrimental than anything, you got to move out the way. And that's just that's just what the code got to be. That's got to be the law.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on what both of y'all said, and I think it's essential, is the power of networking. So, we just got to network. We got to come together. We have to get on one accord. There could be different avenues to the same mean, and then there could also be different agendas to a program, but we have to knock out the agendas in systematic order. So we prioritize one, then we hit another or whatnot. But in all essences, we have to do a better job as a people of uniting together and being together and staying together versus calling each other ops. and essentially being our greatest downfall and our biggest hurdle. And we are, to your point, Rose, that you always say, we are becoming the oppressors to ourselves versus somebody else being our own oppressor. And so that is what y'all said. Both was both profound and dope, and a good way to start. I do agree with you, and I know I'm trying to be one of them people where there's going to be a revolution, and it may be televised. It may be televised, but again, there will be a revolution and a liberation, and I pray that it happens in our time for my children's sake and for my children's sake, and just for our people's sake as a whole, so there won't be 10, 15 more years of this, 20 more years of this, or even honestly another year or 6 months of this. So I hope that's the case, and I hope we do start becoming more intentional in our actions and more deliberate in the things that we want and the change that we want to see. And so that's where I'll leave that with that topic. There is something that I do want to touch on before we close out or do our Black Business Minute or our Supremely Black Person of the Week. I do want to talk about the travesty that's happening in Nigeria, specifically Lagos or Lagos, however you pronounce it correctly, so my African people don't get mad at me. SARS and the police system, because I'm still trying to do more research on it, but I know the president is trying to end SARS, but for some reason SARS is still out shooting peaceful protesters in Nigeria and killing people and still doing some of the despicable things that they have been doing over the years. So I don't necessarily know if it is a corrupt governmental system and the president is just doing some PR talk, or if he means what he says and he's trying to end SARS and it's just the police are just radical, just like our police here, and they're doing their own thing. So my heart goes out to the people of Nigeria, to our brothers and sisters out there, to the ones who are dealing with some of the same things that we are dealing with over here in America. And so my prayers go out to you. My heart goes out to you. I would be remiss if I didn't give y'all the love and the sympathy and empathy that y'all need, and just to let y'all know that your people in America are hoping that things change and that y'all do things and get things done in an expedient amount of time, and that y'all don't have to continue to deal with the the despicableness and the ruthlessness of a justice system that is supposed to be there to protect you, like we are over here in America. So my heart goes out to y'all.
Yeah, I heard about SARS, man, and I ain't gonna lie. The first thing I thought about was that disease back again. I thought we got rid of that. I'm being all the way honest. I thought they was talking about the illness for a moment. But then I did a little research like you. I got to do a little more deep diving into what's going on there. From my understanding, they are going through the, somewhat of the same police brutality we're going through. That's why one main reason why they was protesting as much as they are, especially they was talking about we in together as one. When the whole George Floyd situation went down and Brown and Taylor, they've been protesting just as hard and saying we are one with our Black Americans due to the police and justice system being about the same over there. Like you said, also I seen that their president is talking about. I don't know if there's just lip service and the government is behind it themselves, or what's really going on. So only time would tell with that. And also I got to do my research and see exactly get to track as much research as I can and see exactly what's going on there, because I do understand it's getting heated and real crazy over there with our brothers and sisters over in Nigeria, Lagos, Nigeria. Also a beautiful country as well. I
Yes.
mean, beautiful city, beautiful country overall as well.
Yeah, that last update that I was looking at before we did our podcast, I know the president is talking, but the last, I think it was like a few people were killed while they were protesting. That was the military that came in. That wasn't even the police. So I don't really know what's going on, but it's crazy, and definitely prayers to everyone over there. And as you know, as it's unfortunate, but it's a global thing. It looks like, but I hate that we have to come together under these conditions. But you know, they said 2020 was the year of vision, and we're all on the same page. So as as the smoke clears and the storm quietens, I think it's definitely going to be a revolution that we can look back and say that 2020 has brought a lot of challenges, but mentally we're all going to be stronger. And from a unity standpoint, I definitely think that we've taken a lot of huge steps, even though it's just we've had to take some losses to get there. So hopefully this is definitely something that we can continue to build on. Y'all got anything for us before we close it out?
I got the Black Business Minute. It's a black thing. It's a fun charades game like no other. The game was created for the culture, by the culture. This game revisits favorite pastimes, movies, music, and so much more. And so you could buy the game on itsablackthing.net. And again, it was created by Kim and Edric Stewart. And so it's just a fun charades game for the culture, uh, for us, by us, FUBU, for us, by us. And it's a game that, you know, we should be diving into because, anytime we get together with our people, we love to play some type of game. So why not get a game that was created for the culture and by the culture? And so, again, it's a blackthing.net. And the name of the game is called It's a Black Thing. And that's our Black Business Minute for this week.
Outstanding. Like you said, when we get together, well, we love to get some games in. Foster Supremely Black Person of the Week is going to be going to Miss Taraji P. Henson as she launches her foundation to break the silence of mental health. She started this foundation back in 2018, but it has gained a lot of traction at this point in time. It's called the Boris Lawrence Henson Foundation. Her father was a Vietnam vet, and she grew up dealing with his mental illness as he struggled during time. She was telling stories about a time where they had a cat, and the cat had like ran across the room, like her daddy like lost it and went back to like their Vietnam time or whatnot. Said he did a lot of heavy drinking or whatnot. So she has started that foundation. She also has a Facebook show now, also talking about mental illness as well. This foundation has also did a lot for Black men over the last, I want to say the last month or two, where they put out a project that was giving free sessions to Black men. And you get 3 free sessions as a Black man. And they put it out there, and it was overwhelming for them. They had to shut it down. They said they got so many Black men that was requesting it. I think it was in like 24 to 40 hours, they had to shut it down. So it's not a situation where they just get, one session. They get 3 to 5 sessions for these adult men to get them started, and it's all free. So those sessions are free. They kind of get them started, get them in contact with a counselor, and hopefully those men who need it will continue to go and speak to somebody about their mental illness and get help. So big shout out to Taraji P. Henson, beautiful Black queen, who has got that foundation going for these men and women out here. As as Black folks, we really don't talk too much about mental health. We're just we known for back in the day just saying they're a little off and keep it moving, and not actually getting the help that person deserves and needs. And also like to announce that she's single for all my fellas out there.
She's not engaged no more?
No, not no more. She had to break it off.
Damn.
You had to break it off.
Damn,
So,
I didn't know that.
yeah, so the dudes been flooding her inbox, boy. But most importantly, shout out to her for that. As you know, us as Black people, we are starting to learn a little bit more about mental illness, and we putting ourselves out there a little bit more to get help for mental illness. So shout out to her for making that stride and getting people started on a path.
Salute, Queen. Salute.
Anybody got anything else before we get up out of here?
No, I can't think of anything else. I think we covered everything. Yeah, I ain't got nothing else.
I'll say to our listeners who hear this on Friday or see this on Friday, whichever way you partake, pray for me and Rose in our run group, ZFT, for a successful, good, injury-free half marathon. We've been putting in these miles these last couple months, and it's all in preparation for this. And then we got bigger and better things to accomplish in 2020, 21. So I said 2020, 21. Well, I said it right. Whatever, 2021. I'm messing up, but
that's the right way. That's the right thing to say.
2021, and also we have an open door policy. So again, if you need somebody just to vent to, you got something you want us to talk about, you need some prayer, you need some encouragement, you need anything, hit us up on our IG page at Supremely Black Podcast, or email us at supremelyblackpodcast@gmail.com, and just let us know, give us your feedback, let us know if you just want us to pray for you or to hear a story, whatever the case may be, because we do care about y'all, and y'all are love, y'all are special, and y'all are somebody. And so that's all I got to say.
Yeah, I close it out with definitely safe travels to the Dallas crew coming down for the run. Definitely pray for us to get through these 13. I also want to give a shout out to my little sister as well, which, just to kind of open up a little bit. She is someone that has survived domestic violence. So she was actually on the news speaking with the group in Tennessee for the National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And so she wore purple, and she had a huge article. And, break the cycle in regards to that, man. Just keep your hands to yourself. If you can't love that person, don't put your hands on them. And to anybody that could be going through it, definitely speak up, break the cycle on that. But definitely a huge shout out to my sister Sierra Rose for taking a stance with that, sharing her story with other women and helping them, and bonding together and building some great friendships and bonds that they can get through those traumatic events that they've been through. And to anybody else, again, he don't love you, she don't love you if they put their hands on you. So get away from those situations. But definitely shout out to Sis. That's a huge move.
Yeah, that's supreme right there. That's
yeah.
And it takes a lot of courage.
Yes, it does. It does. Yeah, Flake, what you got for Kim Folk?
Man, nothing but a happy birthday to my middle daughter, Gangsta Cam.
Gangsta Cam.
Yeah, her birthday. The day the podcast drop will be her birthday, and we're going to go out and do it big for a little bit, I guess.
Okay.
So I just wanted to embarrass her real quick, since she had to walk in here and see what I was doing.
I know, yeah. I know she going to have a 40 and sit outside on the porch.
You know it. Smoke a Newport soft pack.
Exactly. the 100s too.
Right.
Yeah, that's what's up. Yeah. Happy birthday, little fam.
Happy birthday.
So, happy belated birthday, your daughter's Will Spears over the
Appreciate it.
past weekend.
Morgan, was she 13?
She 10.
10? Oh, okay. I'm rusty. That boy got a little nervous.
10 going on 30, so.
Yeah, I'm already knowing. If they yours, I can only imagine. I can only imagine. That's what's up, right? Flay, you close out, though.
For all my queens out there, put your crown on, tilt that thing to the side, let them know you are a queen. For all my kings out there, put your crown on, tilt that thing to the side, let them know you are a king. We are supremely black. Thank y'all. And we out.